Well, hi, everybody. It's Conversations with, and I'm Dick Vaughn. And with me today is my great friends Ray Fournier and Russ Dowd. And that means only one thing. That means the 39th annual Food Share Radio and Television Thon.
We'll have to come up with a new name
Well,
for
look,
that.
never mind. It's all the same. But it's always great to have you here. And what, March 29th, Holy
March
Thursday,
29th.
is the day, and we're really looking forward to it. And you know, we certainly can go back over the years with Russ, who began this program many, many, many years ago at WASO, and carried it on and carried it on. And then, Ray, what have you been in the last 15, 20 years?
This will be my 14th Radiothon
14th.
as director of it.
Good. Well, you know, the thing is that we've said it all before, and I think you see it more and more and more today. I was talking to someone the other night, and we were talking a little politics. I've been involved in that aspect of my life for a few years, and we were talking a little politics, and we were chatting, and there was an interesting statement made. He said, "You know what troubles me the most?" And he says, "I don't want you to take this wrong, but," he said, "it bothers the heck out of me that we have money in this country for every foreign country who has a mudslide, a tornado, or a hurricane. We can send 14 airplanes, 400 Marines, 60 doctors, and $20 million. And we got kids and people in America today that haven't eaten.
Right.
Where is our priority?" And I looked at him and I said, "Wow." And then I said, "Guess what we're doing this week?" And so, you know, that's what it comes down to. We have people who may be less fortunate, falling on. Look at, life can be real quick and cruel. You can be healthy and ready to go one day, and I happened to be at the donut shop the other day, and I overheard a conversation in the next table to me. This fellow worked for a company, and he was in their data control center, and he says one day, one of the big shots came in with 3 security people. There was 30 of us who worked there, and it was in a nearby area. And he said, they brought us all into this room, and they said, "We're closing this lab. We have our one in Georgia, and we've transferred some people down there. And so we want to thank you all very much for all you've done for us, and we wish you well."
Yep,
and they handed us a 2-week paycheck, and he says, "And I was out of work that fast." You know, and he says, at 56 years old, go ahead and see how many people are ready. Can't wait to hire you. You know? So it can happen that fast.
Dick, first of all, thank you so much for, again, asking Ray and me to come back to be part of this
my
show.
joy, my joy.
It's become a regular thing that we all look forward to.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. But you know, that story you just told can be duplicated by a story that occurred on Food Share Day, 1987, when all of a sudden in the town of Southbridge, you hear nothing but sirens. And the Hamilton Mills fire was that day. Now, for those of you who may not know exactly where the Hamilton Mills were located, just before you get to the Big Bunny, they were on the left-hand side. If you're going towards Sturbridge, there were a lot of little businesses in there, and just like that,
Gone.
those people were out of work.
Yep.
And the businesses, with the exception of a few, were history. And that's how quickly it can happen.
It does.
And it can happen right here.
That's right, and it does. And that's what this fellow was saying to these friends he was chatting with. And he says, "You know, I went home and I'm numb." He said, "I'm driving home, and I got a 2-week paycheck, and I'm saying, what do I do now? I've never had this happen to me in my." And they didn't. He said there was no warning. They called us up and said, "We're closing this lab. We want to thank you very much, and we appreciate all you've done for the company. And here's your 2-week severance pay, and we'll see you later." And he said, "Really?" And he said, "I got 2 weeks to find a job. I didn't even know where to begin.
Yeah.
I've worked for that company for 20 odd years, and it was gone." And in your case, there's a fire that nobody planned, nobody even thought about. Boom, these people are now faced with, now what do I do? And he said, and as we know, the people that, and Ray, you see them more than I do. I don't. You're at the location where the food is distributed, And you're a hands-on guy more than myself. And you see that. These people come in, and you know, I had a case to talk to a dear friend of mine who happens to be in the clergy. And he was telling me the number of people who knock on the door. Gee, Father, I got 3 kids. I'm a single mom, and I don't. My car needs repairs. I don't have money for gas. I'm not going to be able to go to work. Do you know anybody that would be willing to drive me? Or do you know me? You know, Father, I'm out of money. My husband left me. I got 2 kids.
And there are a lot of those
Can
stories.
you help me? And so you hear those stories, and they're real. They're real, and we hear it when we do the radiothon. The various pastors from the different churches who we invite on as guests. I had a situation yesterday where we had a program planned with one of our pastors, and it happens to be a young woman, and she called me up to tell me that she couldn't get here. She had to put it off because she had a needy parishioner who called her and needs help. And so she says, I can't say no to her, but I know you wouldn't mind if we rescheduled the program. That's how simple it is.
And it's all over the place. And it's not just losing jobs and things like that. I had a friend one time whose wife was facing knee surgery and was going to be out of work for 8 weeks.
Yeah,
8 weeks without a paycheck.
that's right.
He said, I don't know what I'm going to do. I said, well, go to food share. I don't qualify. I said, what do you mean you don't qualify? What are the qualifications? Go to food share.
Yeah.
Tell them you talked to me.
Yeah.
Well, they went over those 8 weeks. And we ran into him. Nancy and I ran into him afterwards. And he's very, you wouldn't believe it. He says, the amount of food we got, we kept up with our bills on my paycheck. And we kept our head above water. And now she's working again.
Right.
And, you know, they made donations to pay back. And that's the best part, when somebody comes back and thanks you that way.
But you made a good point. One of the things that this priest told me was, he said, I had somebody come to me and said, Father, such and such, such and such, such and such. He said, well, tell them to come and see me. Oh, they don't want to. They're too embarrassed. And that's what happens sometimes. People who've always done it their own way and have always been able to handle everything suddenly find themselves with a problem on their hands, and they're embarrassed to ask for help.
That's very common.
Yeah, very common. They're embarrassed to have, and they'd rather not eat than ask for it. And yet, it's there, it's available, and that's what Food Share does with the funds that we derive from the Radiothon. And folks, those funds are from people like you, folks who are watching. It's the generosity. People who bring us checks, and we've had them, $5, $10, $20.
We get jars of
$50.
pennies.
We've had people, jars of pennies. I'll never forget. It's a story I've told. You know, my kids call me, oh, here comes old three-peat. You know, it's a story I've told numerous times. 2 or 3 years ago, the 2 women, lovely women that came in, and they were kind of, you know, a little embarrassed at first, and they had a little bag of nickels, dimes, quarters, and pennies. And they jog every morning, and they jog around town. And they said, this is the money that we pick up on the sidewalk while we're jogging, and we kept thinking, what are we going to do with it? And we each had a little bag, and we decided to bring it to the Food Share. And then we have the folks who have means who will write us a check for $1,000, and some people who write checks for more than that. But that's what makes it so special and so unique, is those individuals who give from their heart, give what they can so that someone else has a morsel of food to eat.
You know, we hear these kinds of stories every year, Dick. And each one of them is heart-wrenching. And it just goes to prove, once again, that typical in this quote-unquote economy, the haves are making money hand over fist. The have-nots are not, they're not gaining at all. In fact, they're falling more and more behind.
When you see those numbers, that 2% of the country, of the people in the country, have 85% of the wealth.
That's true.
And the new tax bill, isn't that wonderful? You know who that helps? You know, guess what? The millionaires just double their money. And so sadly, it's not coming down. And all of these different great things aren't helping the people who need the help. And that's where Food Share steps in for those folks who need the help now. You know, it's not tomorrow, It's not come back on Thursday and I'll give you a loaf of bread. It's now. And I think the great beauty, and we see it every year. We see the folks who walk in and will write us a check or bring in some cash. The number of people at the Big Bunny, where they'll pick up, they'll come down, and Nancy, good Nancy, brings in bags of boxes of food, where they'll pick up
She's
a
the
bag
one who
of
works
food.
hard that day.
Yeah,
Yes.
and they bring in a bag of food or a box of food, which is wonderful. We don't have to buy that. You know, the can of chicken noodle soup or the can of Chef Boyardee spaghetti, that's one less thing that we have to worry about buying. Because where we get our food, we have to pay for it. Yes, we get a great bargain. What's it, 16,
It's up to 17 cents.
17 cents? You know, and so the bottom line to it all is that those folks who come out year in, 39 years in some cases, and they keep showing up, and they bring in their little bag, or they bring in their checkbook, or they bring in their little donation. Those are the people who you know are there, who you know we can count on. And then hopefully somebody who's never given before. Maybe the first time they've even heard of the Radiothon. Maybe it's the first time you even know we weren't even existing. Now you know. And so take a moment, write out a check, make it out to Food Share, and
Share.
drop it off, or mail it to Elm Street.
Yep. The address would be Food Share at 79 Elm Street in Southbridge. It's
That's
that
right.
simple.
And do it up front. You know, the greatest feeling in the world, wouldn't it be wonderful if some year that we could walk in at the beginning of the program and we got 25 grand sitting there? Wouldn't that be outstanding? You know, because we start out with 50 bucks some years,
Yeah.
and we go and go and go, and we build this thing up. And last year we raised over $30,000.
31,000 and change.
Yeah.
When we did the very first Radiothon in 1980, really the general feeling and hope was that we would do this. There was an economic slowdown and tough times for
Yeah.
people. That we'd do this for a year, 2, maybe 3 years,
Yeah.
and then the problem would be solved, and we could just close up shop
Yeah.
and say, hey, we were able to help, for a little while.
When they needed it, yeah.
And here we are 39 years later, facing a much larger need than we did before. And if I may just inject one thing here, clarify what that 17-cent reference was. Much of the food comes from the Worcester County Food Bank. And groups like Food Share are allowed to go into the food bank and purchase food at 17 cents a pound. Now, that sounds dirt cheap, but really think about it in terms of a $5 box of cereal
Oh, yeah.
that in the grocery store will sell, say, $4.95 for less than a pound. You know, like
Yeah.
14
ounces.
14 ounces. And that's rounded out to $5. How many boxes of cereal can we buy at 17 cents
Oh, yeah.
a pound?
Well, you know, you
It's-
take
For
you
that
take
same
a couple of
$5.
you take a couple of canned goods, 3 or 4 cans. That's a pound.
Yeah.
You know, quickly.
And we're not trying to discourage anyone from donating non-perishable food items, because obviously there are some things that cannot be purchased at the food bank that Ray and Nancy and the crew at Food Share do go out and acquire elsewhere. But if you would rather make a cash donation, check or whatever, that money can go a long, long way.
Oh yeah.
But if you prefer to take and bring in some non-perishable food items or paper products,
yeah.
you know, paper towels, toilet paper, these kinds of things, basic necessities.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there are things we don't get at the food bank.
Exactly. So these are the kinds of things that that keep this going. And the other thing that is so special about Food Share, pardon me for bragging here,
I want you to brag.
and I'm bragging on behalf of all of us. The very special thing about Food Share is that it is a short-term shot in the arm. For years, we have used the term, we serve people who fall into the cracks. All of a sudden, like we were talking earlier in
Yeah.
the program, bang, like this, there's a need.
Yep.
And it's a serious need. And if it's going to be a long-term need, it's going to take them a little while before they can get onto any sustainable program.
Right.
So Food Share is there as a short-term shot in the arm to help people get over that hump.
Right.
And I think that's one thing that makes this so special. It's not an ongoing program that, once you're on the rolls,
Yeah.
you can just take and walk in every
Oh,
week
yeah,
for
have
a
a
year.
fun time, yeah.
You can't do that. And I think that when we designed this all those years ago, that was a very, very important aspect.
Right.
Not only for the survival of Food Share itself, but also as a message to our donors and as a message to those who are
Recipients.
receiving
That's right.
the help. That this is not here forever.
Yeah.
This is here as a short-term
To get you back on your feet.
assistance for
Right.
you.
Well, you said something funny, and I remember I had the occasion in my life. I had the station up in Ware, and I was involved in Rotary International, and I was Commissioner of Highway Safety at the time, and the district governor came to me and said, you're so innovative. You're always doing things. Would you make the keynote address at the Rotary Convention this year? Sure. So my topic was find a need and fill it. I talked to these group of Rotarians. I said, there's something in your community right now that needs to be fixed, and you're sitting on your hands. You don't know what it is, and you're not doing anything about it. And I said, for instance, go to the chief of police and find out where the most accidents occur. Every town has a location.
Yep.
And I said, go up there, and maybe it needs a stop sign, and you can solve the problem. Maybe it needs a blinking light, or maybe it needs whatever. I said, talk to your local churches. Find out what they need. Is there anything that they need? And then go fill it. If you're going to be a philanthropic organization, and my topic was find a need and fill it. And that's exactly what Food Share did 39 years ago.
39 years ago.
There was a need, they found it, and they filled it.
Yeah.
And to your point, what you just said, Russ, this isn't something that you can sit there forever and say, oh boy, I got a food train. I'm all set. That's not the way it works. And Ray, you know that these folks come in and you have their names, you know when they come, you know how often they come,
Yep.
and everything is written down and everything's accounted for. And so it's well run, and that's the beauty of it. It's well run, it's well organized, and every single dollar we get on that radiothon, that money goes directly to food for Food Share.
Yeah, your expenses are what? A phone, some postage for thank you notes,
Yep. Insurance.
and some insurance.
That's about it. We know for a fact that 95, we use the number 95 cents of every dollar we raise buys food. And I challenge any charity out there to come up with a 95% number. Most of them are in the 60-65% range,
yeah.
and they think that's great.
Yeah, well, I know
You're
some.
being kind.
Well, you're
Most
being
of the
very
major
kind.
charities,
The Attorney
they're
General.
95% goes to administration.
Well, the
and
attorney
5%
General in Massachusetts, the new Attorney General, has been scouring, and they're finding places where they run they're listed as a charity, and 90 to 95% of the money. Some of these executives are making $300,000 that run them, and she is after them because they're not charities, and they're not going to get tax-free status, And so, when you think about that, and you've all read the horror stories, here's a local organization that's run locally, operated by local people, is accountable for everything, that every nickel that comes in and goes out, has a system of checks and balances so nobody can abuse the system.
And your donation is deductible. It's a legal.
That's
It's
right.
a legal
charitable
501c3,
foundation.
yeah.
That's right. And so it's so important. So we begin number 39 coming up on the 29th of March, and we'll be going from 8 in the morning till 5 at night, and we'll be reaching out to folks between now and then. And is one of the things we said earlier, if you're out there and you're watching the program, and you think, boy, that's something I could help out, and you'd like to do that, we're more than happy. Because boy, I got to tell you, I would get nothing better than a kick out of it to walk in at 8 o'clock in the morning and know we got some money.
Yeah, and
That would be nice.
we know that the corporations that come through every year are more than likely going to be there again.
Right.
You hope, at least.
Yeah.
But one of the things that we've noticed over the last few years is that the number of people walking in or mailing in the checks and the $5 bills has gone down. And that hurts because, oh, gee, you made $31,000. Yeah,
Right.
but we spend $40,000 to $45,000 a year.
That's right.
So if we're spending $45,000 a year and we get $31,000 next month, do the math.
Yeah.
It's not adding up. So if you don't think your $5 is important, I'm telling you now it is. It really, really is. We nickel and dime our way to 31,000. Well, let's nickel, dime, and quarter our way to 35,000.
That's right.
It makes a big difference. And that $4,000 difference, when you go to the food bank, buys you, $20,000, 20,000 pounds of food.
That's right.
I mean, it's our shopping value is so high that that dollar goes so far that, yeah, your $5
Well, I mean,
makes a huge difference.
When you get down to 17 cents. So, folks, you look at. I went to the nuns, so it's a lot easier for me. because
Let me see those knuckles.
when you went to the nuns, when you went to
didn't
the
get it
nuns,
right, yes.
you went to the. I got to tell you a great story. I was in the first grade, and I went home, and my mother says, "Well, Dickie, what did you learn today?" I said, "Mom, I learned gazintas." She says, "What?" She says, "I said, Mom, I learned gazintas." She didn't know what I was talking about. So it happened to be a week later. The night was the nun conference with the nun. So Sister Mary Bennett was my first grade teacher, and she says to Sister, "Sister, Dickie came home, and I asked him how he did, and she said he learned the gazintas." Well, Sister started to laugh, and she says, "Well, did he tell you?" And my mother says, "Yeah, he said 2 gazinta 4, 2 times. That's the gazintas, But you'll learn the gazintas when you go there. But think about it. If you give us
That was back when we could understand math.
oh yeah, it was easy then. But the thing is that what I'm saying is, think about it, folks. You write a check out to us for $1, $2, $5, $10. Just think of 17 cents, okay, times as much as you write us. And then you can say, wow, I bought them 20 pounds of food. I bought 5 pounds of food. If you don't think that 17 cents is important, that you give us $1, and that's almost 5 times. That's almost 5 pounds of food you just bought for us.
We will have drop-off sites set up in Big Bunny in Southbridge
Yep.
and Shaw's in Sturbridge. And there are volunteers there that will be handing out slips of paper of the
Yep.
type of food we need. And people will go in and buy a canned good or 2 and drop it off as they're leaving. We also have collection boxes there. And one of the things we try to emphasize is that if you're going to go in and spend $2, please don't spend the $2. On your way out, drop it
Give
in the
us the
box.
$2. We get
Give us
a
the
better
$2.
deal. Yeah.
That box of cereal, you mentioned a $5 price on a box of cereal, and that's about what it is. But if you drop that $5 bill in that box, I can buy a case of cereal. 1 box, 1 case.
Yep.
For the same amount of money.
That's
So
right.
yeah, your donations are extremely valuable, and especially the person who's going into their pantry and they're grabbing a can of soup and a can of tuna fish, and that's all they can help us with. That's
Yeah.
tremendous.
That's right.
Please come down and drop it off because it's going to go a long way to help us.
Yeah.
But if you're going to go to the store and buy a box of cereal or 5 cans of tuna fish or
Yeah.
whatever, come down to the Southbridge Hotel.
Yeah.
Give us the $5. Go to Big Bunny or Shaw's, put
That's
the
right.
$5 in the box, and boy, we're going to carry it so far by going to the Worcester County
Yeah.
Food Bank. It's incredible what we can do with that money.
Right.
Another thing that is incredible that we've always tried to emphasize, and I can't tell you how many people over the years have come back and said, you were right. And the point that we try to emphasize is, 'tis far better to give than to receive. And we've all heard that since we were, knee-high to a grasshopper, back when you learned gazintas. And the feeling that you get, especially if you physically walk up and make a donation, putting it in the mail is fine. A lot of people, get a good feeling out of dropping something in the mailbox. But if you actually come to a drop-off location or one of the broadcast locations and enjoy the atmosphere that goes on, it's just a wonderful feeling inside. And what better time of the year to do it than on the Thursday before Good Friday, which is, of course, Holy Thursday,
Yeah.
as we go into
Easter
the
weekend.
most celebrated weekend in the Christian calendar.
That's right.
And it's so very special. And if you've never experienced it, try it.
Yeah.
You'll like it, as Mikey used to say. If you have experienced it, you know that you like it, and you come back.
Oh no, and there's no question about it. And we, Ray, Russ, myself, and the folks that come over, your old radio
Steve
people,
Gear, Dave
Steve Gear,
Kablaskis,
Dave
John
Kablaskis,
Ryan,
the-
Ken
the-
Sawyer.
the ones who show up that have been there and have physically done it. There's a reward that goes with it.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a reward, and I can vividly recall each year. And I've been involved now since the first year we did it was 05, I believe.
It's our 14th year together as a group.
And I drive home, and as I drive home, I say, "Wow, what a day!" I'm exhausted, I'm tired, but there's a reward that I get. That you know, I always remember, and I tell the story of my mother with the dollar and putting it in the envelope. And back in those days, that bought me 20 Coca-Colas.
Sure.
That was 10 movies at the theater. I'm a dime, go to the movie for a dime. Mom! And she showed me the envelope, and there's a little kid, and there's a little smaller boy on his shoulder holding a crutch. And the tagline was, "He ain't heavy, father. He's my brother." And she was telling me that we have a brother. She sent $1 a month to Father Flanagan's Boys Town. And it's the same thing. Yeah. We really are our brother's keeper. We've got some brothers or sisters who need our help. We got some folks out there who need a few pieces of morsels so that they can get through the day. Then we have a responsibility. And I drive home and I say, "Wow, what a day." And I can see the different faces of the different people, as you brought out, Ray, who walk in, and they're so delighted to be able to hand us a check, or hand us a $10 bill, or hand us a little bag of pennies from the piggy bank. And I know every year I take change in my pocket. When I come home at night, I throw it in the box. Well, each year I dig it out and I bring it down and give it to the girls. And one year it was $20, another year it was 18, another time it was 26. That's just change that I
Didn't even
just
hurt you.
throw in my pocket.
Didn't even hurt you.
That's right. Didn't even know it was. Thrown it in a little box at the house.
Some people probably have that in their couch.
Well, at least, you know.
Pull those cushions out.
We went out for dinner last night with my aunt, who lives across the street from us, and Nancy went out to the car today and found that she had dropped like $1.50 in change in the back seat. We're going to give it back to her this evening when we see her, but it's a good example of how it adds up quickly. Check your sofa, check your car seats.
Sure. Yeah,
You know,
sure.
When you're walking around, as those ladies do when they're out for their jog. Look down, pick up those pennies.
But, yeah,
I'll take them.
You should not be afraid to get hit by a low-flying airplane. So you don't have to look up.
Right.
You look down.
down.
Believe me, you won't get hit. And if it's coming low, you're going to hear it before it gets there. You know, I mean, my Uncle Al told me that we're walking one day, we're walking along, and he picked up a quarter. And he says, "Yeah, you missed that. See, you're afraid you're going to get hit by a low-flying airplane, and I'm not. I was looking down, and you weren't, and I got the quarter."
I got the quarter.
But anyway, you know, it's coming up. We're delighted to do it again. We're looking forward to your help because, and that's the bottom line, if it wasn't for you folks, we wouldn't even have to do this, okay? And we need you, and we need you big time. And so we'll be coming up on Thursday, the 29th of March. We hope you'll join us. We'll be talking about it between now and then. You'll see signs everywhere, and we'll do some promos, and we'll get it done. And it's going to be great. It's going to be on TV Charlton, and we're also going to have it on WESO 970, and it will be on 1230 in Worcester. So we have 2 radio stations, and we're hoping to get Sturbridge and Southbridge to join us for
That would be
TV
nice.
coverage. And if we can do that, we've got all our bases covered, and all we need is you.
And the one thing that people will find out for sure is that most people who work radio have faces for radio. So.
Oh, wait a minute. Now, wait a minute. I think I'm aging distinguishedly.
Extinguished, did you say?
No, distinguishedly.
I'm sorry, pardon me.
All right.
And it's fun to watch. it's fun to come down to the broadcast location.
I was
yeah.
just going to say that.
And watch it happen.
Yeah.
Southbridge Hotel and Conference Center, 8 o'clock till 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Come on down.
And you wonder how people are able to maintain any train of thought because there is so much going on around them, and yet the members of our old broadcast team at WESO come back year in and year out. Dave Goblaskis, as an example, famous newsman in
You're
Southern
running
Worcester
over
County.
my time, so you better hurry up.
Dave-
You're a radio guy. You know better.
Dave will be doing his 39th along with me.
Great.
He started back in 1980 as well.
Super.
So come all, March 29th, WESO,
WNEB.
your local access cable, and WNEB. Dick, thank you.
Okay.
Is that
See
quick
you then.
enough?